and we are live. So, Dave, thank you very much for your time here today. Um, and it's a pleasure to have you on. And why don't we start today by just introducing yourself briefly to all the listeners and watchers of this podcast.
Sure. Well, my name is Dave Rice. I'm originally from the New York City area. I I was born in Yonkers, New York, and I'm the oldest grandson in two sides of a families. My mother's family settled in Hastings on Hudson, which is the next town up. And her dad was very famous for putting in all of the oil burners from coal in the days when they were switching in all the big buildings. And my grandfather, from my father's side, our business is still in business, and we're in the tugboat business. Matter of fact, as a boy, I had a tugboat named after me and a little steering wheel. So I was told I parked the QE2 once. So anyway, that's our background. So I'm a New York City kid. My wife is from Mississippi, and I should mention that her dad and mother worked at retired and they're passed on now, but they worked at the University of Southern Mississippi, and her dad was the baseball coach and football coach, assistant football coach, but head baseball coach. And we're very active in town there because the stadium is named after him, the baseball stadium. So I think they're ranked about seventh in the country right now. They just beat Ole Miss the other day, which was a big win.
Nice.
So we're both from athletic backgrounds, and we met because she was the women's athletic director at the University of Mississippi and the head volleyball coach. So we're a family of jocks. Let's put it
There
that
you
way.
go.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So yeah, how did you, I guess, kind of let's talking about your kind of sports career.
Sure.
How did that come into play?
Well, actually, I am what I am because of sports.
Mhm.
Because I did not know my dad until I was 9 years old.
Wow.
Uh, my dad came from a wealthy family with the tugboats and everything, and uh, every year he and his brother would go to Alaska to shoot bears and something like that. So these two scallywags go to Alaska to have a holiday of hunting, and the
Yeah.
war breaks out. Well,
Mhm.
uh, being at that age, uh, uh, they stupidly joined
Yeah.
the service from Alaska.
Wow.
He not knowing that my mother was in the early stages of a pregnancy with me. So, as history has unfortunately showed, after the war, he never came home.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden, one day, 9 years later, he knocks on the door to get in the house and introduces himself to me as his dad, as my
Wow.
dad. So that's how I first. So all the men in my life at the time of that period were either gym teachers, little league coaches, people like that.
Yeah.
So as I grew up, I always wanted to emulate them, and
Mm.
I stayed away from the big businesses and everything, and made a career in sports and teaching.
And how did that feel? Like, do you remember that moment meeting your dad? I mean, what was that
Yeah,
like?
well, I knew a lot about him, and interestingly, when I was able to read, uh, my mother finally took me into sort of an enclave of her that she had, like a large closet, I guess you'd call it today. But she had all of my father's clippings, and he was a sportsman also, and he was a football player.
Mm.
And my mother was she played semi-pro basketball on a women's team, and my dad
Wow.
played a semi-pro basketball on a men's team all throughout the Northeast. But we got along very well, and he was very supportive. My grandfathers were not so supportive because they wanted me to go into the business, being the oldest grandson, that
Right.
German background. kind of a thing. So
Right.
I wanted to be like all the men I knew that made my life fun.
Wow.
So that's how I got into sports.
Wow. And so did he I guess were you playing sports before he kind of came into your life, or were you did he kind of teach you about the
I was
about
no, I was just starting into it. We always summered in Westport, Connecticut, so I never played little league or anything like that because we always were away in the
Mhm.
summertime.
Yeah.
But that was my going to be my life. And in high school, of course, I played football and
Yeah.
basketball and ran track and enjoyed it. And I didn't really think that I would play in college. Um, um, I don't know. It seemed imposing to me, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I always
Yeah.
wanted to play, but I could run fast and blah, blah, blah. And needless to say, I ended up, while in college, I played basketball and track as a freshman. And then they talked me into going out for football. But uh, interestingly, a semi-pro football owner, team owner in New York, got a hold of me and said, "Listen, we'll pay you to play here." And he came from a wealthy family also, and his family owned the Irish Echo newspaper, which is the largest Irish newspaper in America.
Mhm.
And so he was a dominant figure in that career. And I gave up playing football in college, and I
Right.
was playing. I guess that's was illegal at the time, but I didn't know anything like that. But
Yeah.
I was making like $50 a game. You know what I mean? And
What
to me,
yeah.
that was a lot of money in 1961.
What
So,
was it kind of like a dream come true when someone offered you that kind of money to play, I mean, your favorite sport, or was
oh
it
well,
like
yeah, it was an honor to play anything. As a matter of fact, the other just recently, the Herald Statesman newspaper in Yonkers had an article about his team, which is still in existence, by the way, and it's called the Bronx Greystones. It
mm,
Greystones is an area of the
yeah.
Bronx, and the article was that I still hold the scoring record in of that team, and after all these years, I scored more points than any other, but I never thought of it in those terms before.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of fun to play, and that's what I wanted to be. And I wanted to be a coach, and that led me to where I ended up being a football coach in college as well as in high school, and getting the opportunity to be a New York Jet, even though they were called the New York Football Titans at the time. Uh, my contract still read New York Jet forever as a newspaper article I have on my wall back there. So they listed all of us that played during those 3 years when they were waiting for the stadiums to be built and before
Yeah.
they came
I
out
I
as a Jet.
yeah. Wow. I read somewhere online too that one of the coaches thought your arm was hurt, but your arm was totally okay. I mean, was
Yeah,
there
well, I have a crooked arm,
okay.
and uh, I really wanted to go to Syracuse University when I got out, and I had aspirations that I might be able to play.
Mhm.
But when I got there, everything was fine until they gave me a physical and found out I couldn't straighten my arm. And it was very disappointing because my scholarship offer disappeared that day.
Wow.
And it was enlightening, you know. And I so I just gave up playing football in college. So that's why I was a semi-pro football player. But it doesn't matter how you get to it, to where
Right.
you want to be. But I never thought I would ever have the opportunity to play even professionally,
Yeah.
growing. But
Yeah.
you never know.
You never know exactly. So I want to take me back to the moment where you got signed by before the Jets were the Jets. They were the Titans of New York. If I'm
That's right. New York Football Titans of New York. I have all of the players that you can't see. You can see part of it,
yeah,
but
yeah.
we have all the lists of all my teammates and everything, and they were. I have one here on my desk I took off because a lot of them did make it pretty big. Uh, Lee Gross Cup, you know, Charlie Johnson, Art Powell, uh, these guys were really good players, even after we became the Jets. Now, when
Wow.
we became the Jets, I didn't like being a Jet because I didn't like green. I know that's stupid, but But anyway, green was green. So just to be with these guys the years following the New York Football giant name was an honor. And
So yeah.
as a coach, I had a couple of players go to the Jets and play with the Jets, the modern day Jets, when I was at Fordham. So,
So are you a Jets fan? Or are you like, do you
oh
have a
yeah, well yeah, I am. I am.
you are?
It's
Got it.
not easy being a Jets fan, but I still am honored to have been a pro.
Of
I think
course, of
that's it.
course.
And the NFL is the NFL. They give everybody a ring. You know what I
Right.
mean? And it's a badge of courage. That's what it is. And people are always asking me about it, and I beam about it
Yeah.
when people ask. So I'm very proud of that. So,
Can you take me back to the year 1969 for a second and tell me what it was like when the Jets won the Super Bowl?
oh yes, I can. Well, uh, it was amazing to me because being a part of something that was so small at the time when they became the Jets, and to see them grow like they did to win the whole deal was totally amazing, and I was even more proud of this little ring than ever before,
Right.
because of it, because of it.
Wow.
But during that time, I was so involved in coaching and everything.
Mm.
I had enough to think about.
Yeah.
What worrying about it, winning on Saturday, never mind
Right.
Sunday. So,
Right.
but it was a something that I just never even we going back and thinking about the early years of the Jets. No one really knew if the AFL was even going to survive at
Wow.
that time.
It's
you know.
crazy.
So
Yeah.
to see it go from that to where they ended up was just something to behold.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So when you think of your favorite moments in your kind of career and just life, are you thinking about your times as a coach or more of an athlete, or is there one that stands out more than the other?
Well, one helped. It helped me get where I was as a coach
Mhm.
by being a professional athlete. Just the word pro, you know what I mean, takes you into business.
Right.
Um, I had aspired in long range when I first graduated from college. I was hired in Greenwich, Connecticut, at Greenwich High School,
Mhm.
and they were one of the largest high schools in the state. And Sam Rutigliano was the head coach there. Then he became head coach of the NFL Chicago, I think Chicago Bears at one time.
Mhm.
And so he in itself, just working there, helped me along a lot. Uh, um, but I always wanted to be a college coach, but never realized the work involved.
Mm.
And that the more I saw how you became a head coach, the less I was interested because I saw all these young coaches on staffs coming to Greenwich, recruiting kids that I was part of coaching, uh, and they were away from home all the time. It was a kind of a turnoff for me. Uh,
Wow.
I wanted to have a real family life and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But once every now and then you meet somebody that takes you to the next step,
Mhm.
and I owe it to uh, the head coach at Columbia University. He was the only head coach, although Lou Holtz he came a couple of times to recruit when he was a college coach. But the coach at Columbia, he recruited our school himself, not an assistant, because it was a large school. We were very good in football, well, in all sports, and academically speaking, it's a high end community. So it fit in with everything. And uh, he told me one time, he said, Dave, you ought to consider being a college coach. And
Mm,
I was so young, I was happy just to be where I was.
right.
And I said, Coach, it doesn't really interest me a damn because I see how these guys come in, they're away from home. I want to be a family guy, that kind of thing.
Right.
He said, well, why don't you do this? We're coming up to our spring football. Now, we only get like 12 days of spring football in the Ivy League. He says,
Yeah.
why don't you come down, just drive down. It's only 40 minutes away from Greenwich High School. He said, come down every afternoon, be on our staff. As far as everybody else will know, you'll be in uniform. You're going to be an assistant coach and see if you like it. It just might turn you around. Well,
Yeah.
I liked it. I liked it, you know,
Yeah.
and, but I still wasn't convinced I wanted to be that assistant route.
Right.
And, but I thanked him very much, and we remained friends, lifetime friends. And at a meeting after practice one day, you're only allowed like 12 days of practice, I think, in the Ivies. Uh, 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 like some guy stuck his head in the door and said, "Coach, I got to see you a minute." Coach ran out, so I knew the guy was very important. I
Right.
was worried I might have parked in the guy's parking But anyway, it turned out it was the president of Columbia University.
Wow.
So the next thing I know, the coach sticks his head out and he goes, Dave Rice, we'd like to see you out here. Now I definitely thought I was in the wrong parking space. So he introduced himself and he said, listen, Coach so-and-so here, he thinks that you should be a college coach.
Wow.
And he says, and I know you're not, you'd like to bypass being assistant, but it's hard to do. He
Wow.
said, but here's what I want you to do. He gave me a card with a lady's name, Dr. I forget her name now, but and she was the president of Western Connecticut State University.
Mm,
And he said she was a very close friend of mine when we were in college together. And now that she's the president of the university, now she's ready to start football at that smaller school. And and they're in the process of. And
mm,
she's looking for a head coach. He says, I'd like you to call her right now, set up an appointment, and I really would appreciate it if you would meet her because Coach so and so here tells me that you're the guy.
wow.
So I went up and I called her and she said, I said, well, it's 7 o'clock, right now, PM. He
Wow.
said, do you have anything going on this night that's more important than your career? And I said, no. She said, well, come on up. I'll wait for you. So I
See,
drove all the
right
way from
there. Wow.
right
Wow.
there. And she wanted to know everything that you had to know. How much
Yeah.
will it cost? Blah, 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 blah. How many players do you have to have? What?
Yeah.
I said, I don't even know what the color your school is. You know what I mean? He said, you pick a color. We'll
Right.
take care of that later on.
Wow.
So uh, finally, it's about 10 o'clock at night, and I said, God, I'm running out of answers. And she said, well, I have one question I'd like you to answer, and I'd like us to meet again. She said, but she says, I'm offering the job as the head football coach at our school. Yeah,
It's unreal.
yeah. So I took it and I started calling that night, and then I hired a staff from all the Fairfield County head coaches, and I
Wow.
had a great staff. And, you know, uh, the first year was tough, but I had recruited 250 players.
Insane. Did you feel?
We
Did you?
did, I should say, my staff and I.
Wow.
In,
Did you
in
feel
just
like
a,
nervous at all from any of this? I mean, is you
well, I was,
fighting the
no,
fire? No. Wow.
no, but I knew I was I was in the flames. I knew
Yeah.
there, and I knew that if I failed here, I probably would not have another opportunity come along, no matter what I did. So we just did everything to do to recruit, and I was honest with her. I said, Connecticut's a small state. There's not a lot of football players in the state. You know what I mean? That anyway,
Right.
and I'm going to have to recruit out of state, and that takes money, and you need to have more recruiting money right now than you do other worrying about how much uniforms cost.
Right.
She says, I'll make sure that you'll have enough money to recruit. And I said, the other problem is you have high academic standards here because you're a state school.
Right.
Okay. And if you want to win right away, we need to have some margin to stick with, with academics. She said, if you bring in a player, he'll be accepted. So I said, what in the world? It's the college president, you know what I mean? So we did. So I brought in 250 football players
Wow.
that
How did
year.
you how did you find these players? I mean, were
What we
you
did was I sent letters to everybody that was ever mentioned in the newspaper.
that's
If they
crazy.
got mentioned in the newspaper anywhere in the state,
It's
I wrote
crazy.
them a letter, and then I had these
You hand wrote a letter?
hand wrote a letter, and I
250 letters you hand wrote. Wow.
oh, more than that, but that's how
Wow.
many players we brought in.
Wow.
So what I did was I arranged through her that we had these recruiting weekends, and we invited their mothers and fathers to come with them, and that's how they all got there. And so we did a good job on that, but they were all freshmen. And then the first year was not a success other than a recruiting success
Right.
in numbers because they're all young kids. But we did win one game. So I got a phone call from the Chicago, young sports writer from the Chicago Times or something, and he said, "Coach," he introduced himself, and he said, "I've been instructed that I have to write an article about the worst football team in America." And he
Oh
says,
no.
and here you are. And
Oh
I
no.
went, well, that's not a good way to introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you want to know? He
Wow.
says, well, I know you won one game. Yes, we won one game. And he said, well, what's the deal? And he said, uh, are you going to be good at any time, or how long is it going to take? And I said, well, everybody's a freshman here. You know what I mean? Uh,
Right.
and I was overscheduled, but that's what I wanted in Division Three. We played better teams in Division Three, Ithaca, Southern Connecticut, and people like that, Springfield.
Mm.
So it was a not a great schedule. But he said he said, can you tell me what you expect in the future? And I said, I expect to win a lot because I've got kids. They're young.
Right.
You know what I mean? And he went along with it, and he said, "Can you give me some news that I might put in my article to make it a little easier on your recruiting?" He was taking my side. I
Right.
said, "Yeah." I said, "We did hold one record in the NCAA for all colleges this year." And he said, "What was that?" He said, "You were uh, the worst scoring team in the country." And I said, well, yeah, we were. You know what I mean? He said, also, he said, what did you have good? I said, well, obviously, we were number one in the country in pass defense because nobody, we were good in pass defense. We were the number one team in Division
Wow.
Three. And he says, how do you figure that? And I said, well, no one had to throw the football. They just ran it down our throats and scored every time they had the ball. He said, Coach, that's a quote in the Chicago Times. He said, but I'm going to give you a good write-up. And he did. He gave us a good write-up, which
That's great.
really helped. Yeah. And
That's great.
I was there 3 years. And then we were improving every year. And the word got out, I guess. And I got a call from Fordham University. Pete Carlissimo was, I'd call him at the time, the nation's number one athletic director. He's a great after dinner speaker and all that kind of stuff. And I always said, boy, I love, you got to be a good guy to work for. And he called me and he said, we'd like to invite you down and talk to us at Fordham and on how you are turning this thing around. You know what I mean? And how you got 250 players and all that, because we want to go up from, they were playing club football at the time, and they
Right.
wanted to go into Division Three. So I told him I'd love to do it. And Fordham was always Vince Lombardi, number one, was my idol.
Mm.
And Vince Lombardi went to Florida, 7 blocks of granite in the history of college football. And had the opportunity to meet him a couple of times at
Wow.
dinners from far away, but still, it was
Yeah.
important to me. And I go down and I got interviewed, and the, uh, just to talk to this committee. And the committee was all big time people because they were trying to raise millions of dollars, as well as starting with the football. And a little bit of the history at Fordham. Fordham dropped football in the 40s, like a lot of schools did. And those alumni, it was always an all male school. And those alumni hated Fordham for doing that. They wouldn't give a dime.
Right. Wow.
And they were trying to build this big arena. And I said, they said, and we need your help as the football coach to help raise money. I said, well, I think I know enough about Fordham background. It's going to be tough raising money out of people that hated the school. You
Right.
know what I mean? No one was giving anything from
No.
that
Right.
era. You know, so I said that'll be a tough one to do. So anyway, Mrs. Lombardi was on that team, on that
Wow.
search committee, and she says, "Dave, I know more about you than you think because
Yeah.
I know what my husband was your idol." And
Wow.
I said, "Yes, yes, he was." And she took me around personally and showed me the school and everything. Interesting.
Wow.
And so anyway, to make a long story short, I came back another couple of times to talk more about how to raise money than it was to win football games.
Yeah.
But anyway, they were tied in together. And she called me and said, we're going to make a decision soon. Could you come down tomorrow
Mm.
and talk to us again? And I said, I did. So I did. So they offered me the job as the head football coach and athletic director because they were moving Mr. Carlissimo to another position. And I said, geez, I said, you know how I feel about this place. I said, but I really can't take the job because I can't win here. Because kids today want to, they want to go and there got to be a swimming pool, and
Right.
fancy, and uh, they didn't have any of that stuff. I mean, the urinals were like 4 feet tall. You know what I mean? They were huge.
Right.
I mean, it was everything was antiquated. So
Right.
she said, well, we hate to hear that, but we'd like to talk it over. And could you come back again? And I said, I'm sure I would. So I came back, and a few days later, she handed me an envelope, and she said, maybe this will change your mind. It was a check for $6 million, not to me, but to Fordham football
Wow.
that the university was ready to spend. She said, now you'd have to spend more money than this, we know, but this is a start, okay?
Wow.
And we'll make you the athletic director and the football coach, which will increase your salary. But I said, so this isn't mine.
How's
She
it
said,
work?
no, it's not yours. It's yours to spend any way you want. So I did.
That's cool. Yeah.
So it was a combined effort to recruit football players as well as that.
That is so awesome.
And yeah, and then 4 years later, we won our conference championship and everything. And I ended up sending 2 boys to the Jets.
Wow.
Kurt Stone, a great back that I had, and Sammy Bowers from White Plains, a big, tall, great kid, and he played tight end for the Jets. So I've always been a Jet fan, I guess you could say, because it's family.
Right.
It's
Absolutely.
and so, but that's how we ended up. That's
What
why
was what was your, I guess, coaching philosophy? Like what do you think made you so successful, and what do you think
Well-
the players would say about you?
I think that I give any kind of success to any coach in recruiting, and more recruiting.
Mhm.
And the key to recruiting is being honest with not only the players but more importantly the family. And in all my recruiting, I didn't do it individually. I did it in mass, basically.
Wow.
I would invite 50 players every weekend in recruiting season to bring their mother and father to Fordham. Okay, I'd take them to a basketball game, and have big lunch and everything, and sell it that way. That hey, we're just starting this thing, but we're going to be good. You know what I mean?
Right.
The same way as I did it, Western Connecticut. Promise them everything and hope for the best. But I had a great staff of people, and we just did a good job recruiting, and we won the league championship 3 years later, and it just all worked out. They made me the athletic director as well, and uh, it was a wonderful time at the university. Uh, I was living large, and it was proof of the pudding that you didn't have to be a genius to be a coach. You just had to be a good businessman and be honest with people.
Wow.
And don't promise a kid anything you can't give him, and don't promise him more than he's worth.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
and opportunities to uh, stay at the university and get a master's degree after they graduate, and that's the key. And I had a great president at the time at the university, and I was a Protestant,
Yeah.
at a Catholic university, and I used to park on the other side of the church on campus,
Mm.
and in the morning, all the teachers, they were all the Jesuits, and
Right.
they'd all be at church. Well, I walked through the church. I'd park on the other side of the church. I'd walk through the church so people thought I was, going or coming from church. So
Right.
and then I picked things like I had guest priest of the week,
Wow.
and the priest would eat with the team and all that kind of stuff, say the prayer before the game,
Yeah.
and then they would be trying to be guest priest of the week to the point where the president called me and said, "Dave, what the hell is the guest priest of the week?" He says, "It's driving us crazy here." And I told him, I said, the kids helped me collect, uh, get the most popular priests, and that they wanted to stay with us, and they'd eat with us the whole week, say the prayer before the game, be on the sidelines, the whole bit. And
Wow.
so you brought people, you drew them into the family, you
Right.
know, and the Jesuits really weren't that enthusiastic about starting football again because of money and things like that. They thought it would take away from them, uh, but you just started the whole thing, and then they made me of course, the athletic director made me a lot very
Yep.
important,
Got it.
raising money. And
Right.
we built the arena. We built the Winston
That,
Barty Memorial Athletic Complex.
that's
To
that
this
that's
day,
yeah.
it's beautiful.
That's phenomenal. That's
Yeah.
really phenomenal. So after, I guess, after you won the title there, did the NFL ever reach out to you, like, or try to get you to be an NFL head coach, or what
No, no. I wasn't interested in that at the time. I spent. I wanted to go to one more place, and that was I wanted to. I always knew that I wanted to live in Florida, always, and I was uh, enamored by Marco Island where we live here, you know,
Mhm.
and the Mackle brothers uh, owned Marco Island, and all it was an island in the Gulf of Mexico, and um, they marketed it first through professional baseball players and football players, and that's how I found out about it. And I was at a team meeting in the summertime in the '60s, and with the Jets, and the uh, that's how I heard about it. I heard some older players talking about it. So I hooked on with them, and six of us came down, and they flew us down for free. We stayed in Naples in a beautiful hotel, and you had to stay for 5 days. And then we got up in the morning. They took us to another airport, and there were three little planes waiting for us, two in each plane. and they took us on a flight over the island. And it
Wow.
was just, they were just starting to dredge out of the canals and stuff like that. You know? So I, I had a pocket full of money and nowhere to spend it. So I we stayed our routine, and we had to make a decision what we're doing. Everybody bought something, but
Right.
I pretty much spent everything I had. I remember I bought three condos, uh, two lots, a waterfront lot and a land lot, and a house for my mother and father.
Wow.
And uh, the fellow that was the salesman, he was everything, everything. It was like a one man show. And the city hall is named after him on Marco, as a matter of fact. And he called me his first land baron, you know. So I took pictures of all the stuff, and it was just woods, you know.
Right.
And when I got back home, I showed my mother, and I thought she'd be excited. She was totally opposed to it. She said, "Oh my God, Dave, you're going to lose all your money. You bought Florida swampland." You know, and here we are talking from Marco Island. My three kids live here.
It's remarkable.
Yeah,
That's truly remarkable.
deal. Yeah. So
Wow.
it's been it's a good time. You know,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
started
Absolutely.
businesses, and I've always had a side business, and I had all these. I bought a 350 room hotel in
Wow.
Monticello, New York, at one time because I wanted to start a football camp. So I started a football camp,
That's phenomenal.
star football camp,
Wow.
and it was, a matter of fact, Joe Namath bought it from me. He
There
had
you go.
a football camp. And so
Wow.
he bought the thing.
What was Joe Namath like? I mean, what did you talk to
Oh,
him?
he was. I really wasn't that with him that long, but he was Joe Namath. You know what I mean? He opened my eyes on on a lot of things. You know what I mean? He was character, and he was mm, he was character.
Yeah.
I wanted to be like him in a way.
Yeah.
Uh, I was single at the time, and I was dating, you know, movie stars, and
Yeah. Yeah.
anybody, had a ring. That's all it took, in those days. So I was living pretty large as a single guy, and you he was Broadway Joe. I wanted to be downtown Dave, and I was, you know.
There you go.
So I had a great time, and then I fortunately ran into my wife at a convention, and you know. That did it for me. So, and we've been here ever since. And we
That's
still go back there where she went to school, where her dad was a coach, and that's the tradition that I wanted for myself. And I just had a fellow that I coached at Greenwich High School came to see me just last week, and he brought a picture of he and I. I used to do a lot of modeling for clothes, and it was me throwing a football to him as a player, and I was in a Giorgio Armani suit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he had that. He had two 8x10s. He wanted me to autograph one, and he autographed it also. And now I have that picture on my bulletin board. But those are the things that make everything credible to me.
Right.
When players come back, I see them all the time. I go to Greenwich High School class reunions whenever I'm invited, and it's a people job. People don't realize it is. They spend too much time, beating kids up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And one of the I'll never forget it. I was at Greenwich High School. I think the most important game I've ever coached in. We somehow I prior to the season, I read that Boys High in Brooklyn, which is one of the largest high schools in America, their backfield, offensive backs, their whole backfield held a track scholarship worthy record in the mile relay. I was a track guy, and I was recruiting speed. So stupid me, I called them, and I scheduled them to play Greenwich. Now Greenwich the stands, you'll fill the stands. You'll get 5,000, 6,000 people at a high school game there, but everybody's wearing fur coats and suits and ties. You know what I
Right.
mean? Well, here comes Boys High in Brooklyn in army buses, 6 army buses, and as they get out of the bus, our stands become completely silent. These
Wow.
guys were humongous, and there wasn't one white player on the team, you know.
Mm.
And I was a little worried, but I had 2 great players,
Right.
and I had 2 great players, and we beat them, you know. And it was the only game they lost that year, and their backfield. Their backfield was the high school record holders in the entire country for the 220 relay. So but stuff like that. We just had fun doing it, you
You
know.
have fun doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and we did stuff in all our teams. I had a team one time and they played very badly. So uh, one of my most supportive uh, businesses in town, the private garbage pickup in Greenwich.
Yeah.
He says, "Coach, what happened? What's going on?" I said, "Listen, we just played like crap. We played like garbage." And he goes, "You speak softly about that." So I said, "I got an idea. Could I have 4 of your garbage trucks for next Saturday's home game?" And he said, "Sure. What do you want them for?" I said, "I'm bringing a team on the field in 4 garbage trucks. If we played like garbage today, we're going to remember this." So I had the kids hanging on these 4 garbage trucks in front of all these ladies and
That's
fur
great.
coats and everything in Granite, and it turned our season around. It really did.
It,
You know,
it
so
was
it's
it
gimmicks.
reversed the curse.
Yeah, and I had a T-shirt that all the staff wore for a different day of the week. You know,
Wow. That's really
Tuesdays
phenomenal.
Tuesdays are hit day. Wednesday, whatever it was. You know,
Right.
and the weather got cold one time. I made all it. It was below freezing. You know, and I had all the, including me. I made all the coaches. Kids were bitching. They didn't want to go out.
Of course.
So,
Right.
so they went. They were on the field waiting for us, and when we came on the field, we were in T-shirts. But that's what makes it, gimmickry.
Exactly. And you gave them memories for the rest of their life. I think with
Oh,
that.
that. Oh, yeah. Well, I have have it right here. I started a thing. One of my players was a diplomat,
Hmm.
and he was in I forget what country it was, but he brought back a Gurkha warrior knife,
Hmm.
and he said, "Coach, I got an idea for you." I was coming up with an idea that I wanted to have spell out some word on the front of my helmets, for doing
Yeah.
some individual things. And he said, "This might be what you've been looking for," because I started the Fathers Club at the Greenwich. And I looked at it, and he said, "First of all, this knife, you can buy them, okay?" But he was a diplomat. And he said, "Every Gurkha knife that is not with the Gurkha in that Gurkha's hand is because that Gurkha was killed. So every knife, you can't buy a Gurkha knife." So he said, "It might fit what you're looking for. Gurkha. Gurkhas, by the way, are the Queen of England's bodyguards."
Right.
Anyway, so I started this thing at Greenwich saying Order of the Gurkha. So the idea was certain things that you could achieve a Gurkha: intercepting a pass, recovering a fumble, something individually, universally acceptable. Okay, and you'd get a G, then you'd earn a Gur, and people would say, "What the hell is a Gurk?" "Oh, yeah, he's not finished yet. He's not finished yet." But the team knew, nobody else knew.
Right.
Well, this guy, the father of this player, he brought back, on his own expense, he brought back as many Gurkha knives as he could buy, so that every kid that made the Gurkha during the season got a Gurkha knife. and I have one right on my thing that one of my captains gave it to me from the team, from the Order of the Gurkha. Interesting.
Wow.
And one of my assistants became the defensive coordinator at Cornell University, and he introduced the Order of the Gurkha up there.
That's
So,
awesome.
it's fun stuff, and
Yeah.
kids love that. Kind of.
Kids want to have fun. Exactly. I think
Yeah, and they slaved. Believe me, I can tell you that. I got a wall behind me full of that stuff,
yeah. Yeah.
letters and stuff
Yeah.
that they
Dave,
remember.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I want to also ask you, in terms of just life lessons you've learned over your career and personal life and professional life, what advice would you give your past self, and what advice do you have for, the younger generation, like me, and kind of just going through, challenges and doing whatever job it is? I mean, what kind of advice would you give to,
I
people?
think that I'm using my own self, what motivated me. But coming to Marco Island, I had retired young enough because of family business that I could, and some of my businesses were doing very well anyway, uh, and um, I made sure that I started businesses that um, didn't require a lot of money to invest in, but the opportunities were there for high yield.
Mm.
And so we were successful here in Marco Island. My son still runs one of our businesses here, and it's called Total Home Services. We do every service you could think of for a home on Marco Island. Lawn
Wow.
service, pool service, name it, we do it. Anyway, and he's been doing that now since I started the thing. But my wife and I started that business, and I think that the whole idea is uh, planning ahead. You know, uh, if I had stayed in sports, uh, I don't think I was going any farther. You know, uh, I achieved what I wanted to achieve. I loved it. I loved it, and but I was ready to settle down and have a family, and I kept all the properties that I bought when I didn't know if it was going to pay a bust or not.
Right.
And it was the smartest thing I ever did was to keep them because all my kids, I have 3 kids, they all
Yep.
live here. You know, yeah. 2 of my granddaughters just graduated from college last year and are teachers in the next town up, Naples,
Wow.
Florida, that kind of
Phenomenal.
deal. Yeah, so I think that what I would advise anybody to do is think beyond the initial money end of it. What made our life on Marco Island exceptional was community service. Um, we um, I've been I got a wall. Half of this wall behind me is community service plaques. Somewhere along here. But, oh yeah, I hope this is the last one.
Yeah.
Called the Diamond Anniversary Gala. Dave Rice, Linda Hassens, and Val Simon. Blah blah blah. The Country Club. 350 people expected. $475 a plate dinner. Uh, uh, what is it for? It's called the Diamond Inspired Elegance Award. Probably announces
So it's really about giving back.
it's a Spirit of Marco Island Award for
Wow.
Marco service. Uh, you know, uh, not to brag, but I've been the Citizen of the Year, the Volunteer of the Year, and all
Yeah.
those kinds of things. And they were just as important to me as winning a football game.
That's
But
really phenomenal.
and we
Yeah.
always made things fun. We just raised over $1 million for the YMCA. Um, Community service is the most important thing I think a person should have as an adult. I think you get the most out of it. Young people should join the Kiwanis Club, or of course, you got to be sensitive politically these days, but I ended up being president of the Southwest uh,
Sure.
Republican Club. It took a lot of heat from at
Yeah.
times,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you survive.
Yeah.
But other things uh, I think is important. You know,
Absolutely.
what got me involved in that was first thing I did when I got here, and I wanted to start a little business because I've always had businesses anyway.
Yeah.
Was join the Chamber of Commerce. That set my life on fire.
Mhm.
One thing led to another, and now we're we got a Citizen of the Year plaques and all that
Yeah.
kind of junk. You
I,
know what I mean?
I think I think it's really awesome that you found ways to like almost win off the sports field too, and that's what you seem like is
Absolutely.
important.
Yeah. The lady that runs our Y here has been, oh gosh, I've been working with her for since I got on North Island, and she now runs all the Ys in the county. And
Yeah.
we had an international sports festival on Marco.
Wow.
International.
That's
It was
really
the first time that a world record holder of any kind had participated in anything on Marco Island. I had I had a we had every sport you could mention had a summertime. The Marriott was all over it. We filled the Marriott and then some. And uh, I even had a guy come from Czechoslovakia to participate in the kayak
wow.
race. We had four guys who are the world record holder holding uh, uh, inline skaters
Mm.
for the 25. I had a 25-mile inline skating race. You know what I mean? They won the race, and I had the same uh, map for the 25-mile bicycle race, and those roller skaters beat the time of the bicycles. It was unbelievable to see. We had a bunch of stuff. But if you do stuff like that, it's fun. And then to raise money, I had at the hotel. One time I had honor champions, and you bought a table, and I had a champion in some sport, no matter what. Uh, Come and Marriott took care of them and everything getting on there, and the deal was you buy the table, there'll be a world record holder there or a boxing champion or somebody like
Yeah.
that, and a sellout stuff.
Wow.
It's a play on words, really. It's fun,
Right. Right.
and anything that's fun, everybody wants to get a hold, be a part of.
Absolutely. I think it's really awesome that you found this next chapter kind of after sports, just
Oh
giving
yeah,
back. Yeah. Yeah. I think
I go to a restaurant. We were at a fancy restaurant last night, and this little ring, an NFL ring, um, gets more attention than anything I own. Now I shouldn't say this. I drive a gold Rolls Royce, you know, you know, and it gets more attention than that. And
right.
if I'm sitting in a restaurant, there isn't a day that doesn't pass that somebody says, "What kind of ring is that?" You know,
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's freaking amazing. Now, I never had a picture of the original, what we call the original Jets. Okay,
Yeah.
even though we were the other guys, we were the original Jets, and they were owned by the Jets. Blah blah blah. They just weren't the Jets until they built the stadium. That's why we were playing in the baseball stadium. And
Polo grounds, right?
yeah, the Polo Grounds. That's where we played, and it was fun. What the heck? The New York Giants played in the Yankee Stadium.
Right.
you know, what the hell?
Yeah.
So I didn't look at it bad. I thought it was a great stadium to play in. But
Wow.
it's just it's fun stuff, and people love that kind of thing. You
Yeah.
know, um, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
And I think people get too excited about being a prick. You know, you
Right.
know, you know, it's like stay out of that thorny spot. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Or else that needle's going to stab you. You know what I mean? Do
Absolutely.
something fun. Keep everybody having fun that is working for it. Give them all the credit in the world. You know what I mean? And that's what works.
I love it.
Works in
It's
sports,
all about
works in business. You know,
having
get to
fun
know.
and being a good person. That's really what it
That's
comes.
it. Uh, we just love it here. We can't. We were thinking of downsizing the house and maybe going off the island into Naples, and we just said, why?
Right.
You know,
Wow.
you know, well,
Yeah.
this is our home.
Yeah.
You know,
No, absolutely. Well, Dave,
yeah.
I got one more question for you, and then
So
we'll end things from there. But going back to the Jets for a second,
yeah,
the kind of right now debate is with the quarterback and the coaching and this. I mean, what do you think of the current coaching regime that they've got
uh,
going on now, and what has to change for this franchise to win another Super Bowl? Woody Johnson needs to sell the team or something else? Or what do you think?
no, I just think football is creating a monster that I'm not sure that anybody's going to survive. I just think that they ought to just get back to having a good time, having fun. I
Yeah,
mean, Joe Namath set a tempo. I mean, my nickname was Downtown Dave, you know,
yeah,
but we had fun, and I'm not sure that even the guys are having any fun anymore playing. I mean, we go back to New York a lot, and we're going back. As a matter of fact, I graduated from Ithaca College. That's where I finally graduated from.
yeah.
And Ithaca plays their arch rival, Cortland State University, plays every other year because uh, 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 my school, Ithaca, sponsors that game. We play in Giant Stadium. Now, Ithaca College versus Cortland State University. Who the hell is going to that game? You know what I mean?
The
12
parents and
I in New York from
cousins.
each school.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Okay. Now, the last time we played 2 years ago. So we're going again this year. Now, last year's game drew 44,000 people to see a Division III football game.
Wow, that's a lot of
Unbelievable.
people.
It's a record. Okay.
That's a ton of people.
Because
Wow,
somebody at Ithaca came up with a good idea,
which is what.
which was simply, let's go to New York City. What the hell? Let's stay in the Giant Stadium area and
That was
have
it.
our football game here. We got, I helped them get the hotels and the Marriott involved and stuff like that from contacts here.
Yeah,
And we're going to break that record this year, I'm sure. You know what I mean?
phenomenal.
It's you call it gimmickry, but it is almost. But if you have something an idea, find out what can be fun as a result of that
Right.
enterprise. You know what I mean? There's something you can have fun. You know.
Yeah.
Uh, Now we're raising money now to put additions on the YMCA here in Marco, and they asked Jeannie and I to be the sponsors, and we just had our banquet. Now, when they asked me to raise money, I said, "Sure, I'm going to raise some money for it. Just let me make one phone call first, see how it will." Now, I already talked them into saying that in the addition that they're building is multi-million dollars. I said, how about giving the people an opportunity to donate big money and naming a portion of that place? And everybody does it, or a lot of places do it. Name this built this room after someone in the family.
Yeah.
So they said, okay, that sounds good. If you take it over, try it. So I said, let me make one phone call. So I run the Christmas programs here in Marco Island. And a lady on my committee is her husband has passed away, but he was an outstanding football player at Purdue and a very good friend of mine. And I called her and I said, listen, I said, we're raising money for blah, 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 the why. And I think it might be an opportunity for you to think about, you guys love Marco Island, they have a mansion here. And, what a nice tribute if you made a donation and selected some part of that enterprise of building and then named it after the family or your husband. She said, God, Dave, that's ideal. She said, let me call you back. I have to call corporate. And I said, just, I said, and when I tell you these people have money, I mean, they have big money. So she said, let me call you back as soon as I talk to corporate, because I know we have a budget for that set up in the company. They own at Federated Investors. They make all the axles in America. Anyway, she calls me back. She said, Dave, I have to apologize. I go, you know, she said, uh, I wanted to give you $1 million, but that part of that budget, we gave out so much money in there. Right now, we just don't have it. But
Mm.
she said, now here's the big but. I can write you a check today for 750,000, and I'll make up the other 250,000 next year. Will you take it? And I said, let me think about that a minute. Yeah, I thought about it. We'll take it. Can you imagine people have that
Right.
much money with a little
Insane.
bit of a gimmick? When someone loves something and you know they're rich, if you're raising money, if that's what you're doing for something, this is what you do. You give people a chance to honor somebody in the family.
That's what
It
it's
turned out
about.
she was a YMCA kid growing up.
Right.
It worked out perfectly.
Wow.
But
No, that's a phenomenal story.
that's the whole idea, you know. And we donate stuff here. We have a home in North Carolina. We put it on. They have an auction at all these functions, and we give our house away for a week. And if you were renting the house, it maybe cost you $3,000 for the week in the mountains, and it's a beautiful house.
Right.
Now we auction it off at the banquet, and we're auctioning off at this banquet that I just mentioned that we're
Yeah.
coming up. The same thing. It went for $19,000. Who has money to pay $19,000 for a week in North Carolina? What the hell?
Right.
It's not the house. It's the idea that it's going to a good thing. You know what I mean? And they love that thing and they want to support it. If you
Right.
just said you want to donate, that much money, they would say no. But you offer them something that they put their family name on. You know,
Definitely. And then they get right.
who wants? We put the name on the escalator. I don't care.
Right.
Just
Right.
name it after somebody. You know,
I got you. Yeah.
and it's a fun thing. It's a fun thing.
Definitely. Well, Dave,
That's the
listen,
key.
that's the key. It's all about having fun. I can't thank you enough for coming on and spending, the day talking to me about this, and just telling me your story. It's super inspirational, and it's gives me good insight and advice as I try to, grow this page and this brand of just sticking true to next year and always, having goals and being optimistic and hopeful. So I think it's very much appreciated from my end.
Well,
Just
let me
having
tell you, I make my opinions of people early on, and
yeah.
hopefully they don't disappoint me. Just talking to you, I know you're on the right track because you're having fun doing this. I can tell,
Yes,
and
thank you.
at our expense.
Right.
Oh, I
Exactly.
mean that. I had fun doing it, and anytime.
All
Why
right.
don't you come on down and see us? I'd
Abs-
like you to
I,
take a look at that wall of fame I have in my back before I die.
I, I love that. I love
Anyway,
that. I usually
we appreciate it.
yes.
Certainly
All right.
appreciate it.
Thank you very
See you
much,
soon.
Dave.
You
All right.
bet,
Take
partner.
care. All
Bye
right.
bye.
Thanks.